This, in 1984, is London, chief city of Airstrip 1, a province of the state of Oceania.
The Ministry of Truth, mini-true in Newspeak, was startlingly different from any other object in sight. It was an enormous pyramidal structure of glittering white concrete, soaring up terrace after terrace, 300 meters into the air.
Even in the early years of the Second World War, Orwell's mind was moving rapidly along the path that would lead him to 1984 and the nightmare totalitarian world administered by Big Brother and the Party. Its scenery lay everywhere around him. In between air raids, Orwell walked the streets of London, building a new and frightening metropolis in his mind. Senate House in Bloomsbury became the Ministry of Truth. And Trafalgar Square became Victory Square. Big Brother's statue would have replaced Nelson's column. And St. Martin in the Fields was converted into a gory waxwork museum of military history. Declared unfit for military duty, Orwell spent 2 years at the BBC's Eastern Service in Portland Place, the dreary corridors of the Ministry of Truth, where Winston Smith sits airbrushing people and events out of history, certainly owe something to the BBC offices where he worked as a talks producer.
Routine correction to Times of 17th March 1984 were shown, quote, in his broadcast speech last night, Big Brother referred in confident terms to the probability of a large-scale Eurasian offensive early next month. There is no possible doubt, he said. It will be launched in South India. Other parts are expected to remain quiet. Reprint entire back number and file.
What he saw about here in his picture of the Ministry of Truth was something which became a reality in the Soviet Union, in which it really was the case that people could be airbrushed from history.
He certainly didn't write it as a warning against socialism. He wrote to journals in America saying this is not against the Labour Party, which was then in power, and he was very anxious that that shouldn't be thought.
After what he described as 2 wasted years at the BBC, Orwell moved on to the more congenial job of literary editor of the left-wing weekly Tribune. Even at this late stage of his life, Orwell remains an elusive presence for the biographer, and the worry is that a vital clue to his character may have been overlooked. Is that one of his razor blades?
I know.
Razor blade dryer.
Razor blade dryer. Just
don't cut this. Extraordinary.
Wouldn't normally keep something like that. But
well, the thing about Orwell, one of the things I discovered is how few things there are of his remaining. There's hardly anything. I mean, we know the books that he read.
Yes,
and we know but the idea of having his... Somebody sent me through the post his stapler from Tribune, which they bought, but then it turns out I think there are several Orwell Tribune staplers, and nobody knows which is which. So. And presumably there are sort of postcards and things sent to him.
Well, this is what one of the most poignant parts of the collection, I think, is the Christmas cards that were sent to him.
Merry Christmas, Daddy. His personal life too was changing. Unable to have children themselves, he and Eileen decided to adopt a baby boy, Richard Horatio Blair. A lot of them I'd not seen. The ones of you, for example, as a child, playing on the...
Oh, yeah, well, there are lots and lots of, lots of photographs, which he sent me many years ago.
And there's that marvellous and, to me, almost symbolic one, which is of him pushing you with the kind of pushing the pushchair, and towards you are running the school children.
Yes, because the actual photograph itself is simply him, me, and in the pushchair, which has been cropped, obviously, simply for...
But the wider photograph has got the school children.
Yes, that's right, it has. That's right. But they were cropped out.
It's wonderfully evocative. I mean, it says quite a lot about, immediately post-war London.
Well, it doesn't. Everything was worn out and grey, and which is what he said, oh, London's getting terribly grey. That's why he moved up to Scotland, which was...
I mean, did he not encourage you to smoke a cigarette?
Yes, he did, rather.
What happened then?
Well, he used to throw his cigarette ends into the fireplace. I would go down after lunch and take the cigarettes out of the fireplace and stuff them into his pipe, then ask for a lighter, and the lighter would be handed down. And the conversation would carry on. No one it didn't break whatever we were talking about. And I was trying to light this damn thing, couldn't get it going. But I did get it going eventually. That put me in bed for about several hours, actually, afterwards. So.
He had this place in Scotland, and he said one of the reasons he wanted this place in Scotland was for his little boy. He'd adopted a little boy, and he was quite sure there was going to be an atomic war, and he thought Scotland, right in the north of Scotland, would be much safer than being down in London.
In 1945, with the war over, Orwell's life was in crisis. Animal Farm had been a huge international bestseller, but his wife Eileen had tragically died during a routine operation. Orwell's instinct was to retreat, and he came here, to the Hebridean island of Jura. Orwell relished Jura's remoteness, but many of his friends, sent details of the 48-hour trip from London, cried off on grounds of inaccessibility. London to Glasgow, Glasgow to Gourock by train, boat to Tarbert, bus to West Tarbert, another boat to Craighouse, followed by a 17-mile taxi trip, after which, depending on the state of the road, the visitor might well have to get out and walk. But why did he come here, hundreds of miles from London literary life? One of his friends felt that Orwell could only thrive in adverse conditions. Well, he certainly found them on Jura.